Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. I'm very happy to welcome you once again to another episode of The Truth About Love. Today I am with the wonderful Lisa
Oh,
Surihani, and
thank you
I
so
am
much.
Mizi Wahid, and this is actually session number 10 already. Alhamdulillah.
Right.
We've talked quite a bit, Lisa, about topics pertaining to love, from the definitions to infatuations, to liking somebody, to figuring out the criteria, knowing what you want and what you don't want, things like that.
Right.
Today we want to talk about something else. Today's topic is love before marriage or love after marriage.
And discuss. So
Yes.
we're going to be talking about the aspect of the existence of the strong emotion of love,
Mm.
because a lot of the both of these scenarios exist, whereby like there's the emotion of love that has been developed before you actually tie the knot, but there are also a lot of instances in a lot of cultures whereby two people are arranged to be married, and then
Mm-hmm.
they develop the feeling after.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at, discussing with Ustaz Mizi Wahid about what does Islam say about this. Is it something that we want to derive a conclusion as to whether or not it is either or that
Mm-hmm.
is, how do I say, that is disarankan, or rather is encouraged,
Encourage, yeah.
recommended in
Mm-hmm.
Islam,
Mm-hmm.
or are we looking at an open ending? So we're here. We're gonna discuss. Like I could safely say, if you ask me, in my case, what
Mm-hmm.
was it? Like was my case
Love
love
before or
before
love after?
or love after? I think it's an easy answer for that one. Like
Mm-hmm.
I developed feelings for my husband before
Mm-hmm.
we tied the knot, and
Mm-hmm.
that was because the circumstances were it's such. Like I had known him since even before he had known about me
Mm-hmm.
because of who he was.
Yeah.
But like it was only like like a me having a crush on a person from a boy band. Um, but then when I got to know him better, then the feelings developed into love.
Mm-hmm.
And then that helped me in deciding
Mm-hmm.
to tie the knot.
Mm-hmm.
I asked my husband before we started this session, were you in love with me before or after marriage? And then he said, of course, before.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I get married to you if I wasn't in love with you? And I said, but see, today I'll be discussing with Ustaz Mizi Wahid about, these different scenarios, that there are people who fall in love before and there are people who fall in love after. And he was like, oh, right, yes. Yeah, because his parents were arranged to get married,
Mm-hmm.
and they're still together till today, in love
Yeah.
as ever,
Mm.
So let's discuss this, Ustaz. What does Islam say? Yeah.
Yeah. So before I go there, I think it's important to appreciate, like, why would some people like yourself, like myself,
Mm-hmm.
why did we, perhaps only decide that we are okay to marrying this particular person after we've developed feelings for them?
Mm.
I believe part of the reason that influenced that is because we have heard of many horror stories, so to speak, about people in marriage. And then soon after getting married, they realize, wait, I don't think I really like this person that much,
Right.
And then it scares them to think that, oh, what if that happens to me too?
Mm, mm,
And so they
mm.
wanted as much assurance as possible that this is somebody I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. I better like
Right.
him.
Right.
I better love him. I
Mm,
better love her. I need to know that this is somebody I can live with
mm,
forever, build a family with,
mm.
build a home with. And, the only way I can get that assurance if I know I have very, very strong feelings for this person.
And
Yeah.
I'm a child of the 80s, and I could say that like I'm considerably a modern day child, and
Mm.
like the idea of getting betrothed to someone without actually knowing the person, it is quite unfathomable for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Like sort of like, I don't know this person, I'm going to be spending the rest of my life with this guy.
Yeah. You
Like,
know, it reminds me of all the stories of, in Hollywood, there will be movies of princesses that will be told to marry somebody that they don't really know
right,
because it's
right,
arranged. From
right.
in its, in our community, what I notice is that whenever we talk about arranged marriages,
Mm.
people always immediately assume that it's an Islamic marriage.
Ah,
Yeah, but
but there
I've
are
also
other cultures
yes,
that do
I do
this.
that too.
Yeah, yeah.
But I've also heard when, the arranged marriages are quite unreasonable, is forceful, or it is
Mm.
in the interest of the parents to benefit something out of it. Okay.
Ah, I see.
I've heard
Right.
of that too.
Right,
So,
right, right, right. Yes, 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 yes. There's certain that there are. I've heard of, like, there's some sort of, like, criteria that has to be met
mm,
before
mm,
this actually does happen. So it's actually arranged not to. It's not just simply arranging like one person to another person. It's also about the person's background, the person's
yeah,
life, the
looking at the
person.
criteria.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it should not be done to benefit the parents or the family. It should be done to benefit the couple who's getting married.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the guidelines are already there. I think we covered it a bit before this.
Mm,
So, I think I just wanted to say that too, because
mm,
that just because it's arranged doesn't mean it's done in an Islamic way. Just because it's
mm,
arranged also doesn't mean that, it's happy ever after. But
mm.
the opposite is also true. Just because you've known the person for so long, you've loved them for so long, doesn't mean it's going to last forever,
That's true.
and so on and so forth. So I
That is
think we
true.
need to look at this objectively.
Yeah,
And to me, to each his own, and everybody's going to have a different experience altogether.
that's right.
And we can't really predict the future. We need to trust our instincts. We need to trust the knowledge that we've gained.
Yeah.
And when you combine all of that, including some du'as to Allah to guide our hearts, I think that's the best way forward.
Yeah, and let's just try and like discuss things in order for us to open our minds, like, this is to the listeners and to myself, and to myself as well. Like, a lot of the times, like, I think we've heard from our friends, and I'm sure Ustaz Mizi has
Mm,
also heard from couples that he has to interview before they get married and stuff. Like, there is that certain tendency of dependence, of looking at the duration of how long they've known each other or how short they've known each other, to be a strong factor. Like, and 'cause sometimes the sole factor, and based on the previous episodes that we've sort of like discussed before, we can safely understand that, like, it's not just about how long you've known the guy. It only takes, like, oh, I've got to know him for at least, like, X amount of years, then
yeah.
I know, like, he's the one,
Mm,
or something like that, like. So
mhm.
let's, yeah, we
Okay.
discuss
So I'm
further.
going to share a particular hadith narrated by Imam Ibn Majah.
Okay.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam once said, which
Sallallahu
means,
alaihi wasallam.
we do not think that there is anything better for those who love one another other than marriage. We do not think that there is anything better for those who love one another other than in marriage.
Ooh,
So, that's a very interesting statement, isn't it, Lisa?
right. Yeah.
So, to me, there are actually two ways for you to look at this and how you interpret or understand it. Okay.
Yeah.
The first one would look at it and say, oh, see, the Prophet ﷺ said there is only love after marriage.
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
But another perspective could look at it and think, well, what the Prophet ﷺ is saying is that there is no love that is better than after marriage.
meaning to say that, like, if you happen to fall in love with the partner
Mhm,
before marriage,
mhm.
it is always better for you to halalkan.
Yeah, ideally,
Ideally,
of course, if
ideally.
the person feels the same way about you, it
Right,
could be
right,
one way.
right,
So
right.
the best love is love after marriage. That's what the Prophet ﷺ is saying. It's
Mm.
nothing can compare when it comes to human love
Mm-hmm.
of the opposite gender. It's after that. But could it develop before? He did not say that, it's not possible. He's just saying that the best is the
Mm-hmm.
one that is in marriage.
Right.
Okay? So again, there are two ways of looking at it. There will be different opinions and views,
Mm.
but I find it interesting that Islam is so holistic, right? So comprehensive that the Prophet ﷺ even covered on
The
this.
aspect of, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, I know, like, I remember that story that you shared with me in a previous episode about, is it okay for a woman to make the first move,
Yeah.
right? And then you went back to share with me the sirah about Khadijah radiallahu anha,
Mm-hmm.
whom had shown, like for a better word, interest, in
Admiration.
admiration
Mm.
uh, uh, towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
Wasalam.
and had asked for someone to approach Rasulullah to ask if he was interested to sort of like, see, let's bring this to the next level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So whether or not there was a manifestation of the emotion of love, Allahu A'lam, but then the thing is like, in that sense, we can somewhat be open to the idea
Mm.
that it is highly possible for
Mm.
someone to actually have some sort of development of emotion
Yeah.
before actually the actual nikah itself,
Mm.
if you
I
know what
want,
I mean.
yes,
Mm.
exactly. And I want to share something I learned many years ago from one of my lecturers. It's about when you're proposing to someone. So
Okay.
there's this story about this one companion. His name is Al-Mughira. He proposed marriage to a woman.
Mm.
And the Prophet ﷺ heard about it, and the Prophet advised Al-Mughira and said, because that is more likely to create love between you. So they're not
Ah.
married yet, but the Prophet ﷺ knew that Al-Mughira had approached this woman to marry.
Mm-mm.
Prophet
Mhm.
ﷺ said, go and look at her, go and look at her now, because that is more likely to increase love between the two of you.
Mm.
So that's interesting, isn't it? Because then the Prophet ﷺ is almost, of course, he's giving the license to look at this person. You're marrying her, right?
Mm.
You need to look at
Mm.
her face. By looking,
Right.
it means look at your face.
Mm.
Some scholars say you can look at the hands, things like that, um,
Oh,
where the
right.
aura is, permissible.
Mm-mm-mm.
Then the Prophet said that the love could increase even more as a result of you looking at her first. And then when you marry her, it's going to double, triple, it's going to get even
Mm-hmm.
better.
Right.
So, you know, then this obviously means that there is such a thing as love before marriage. Not
Mm-hmm.
lust, though. There's a difference, right?
Oh
It's not
yeah,
lust
yeah,
before marriage,
yeah,
but
yeah.
love before marriage. That is definitely possible.
Mm.
And he said that what is likely is that it will increase when you are eventually married.
Mm.
Mm,
Wow. Okay.
yeah. So I want to also address one thing because sometimes when certain people want to get to know somebody, like as per
Mm.
our previous topic, they want to get to know someone, they want to talk to this person, and so on and so
Mm.
forth,
Mm-hmm.
or they fall madly in love, and sometimes this is beyond our control. It's our heart we're talking about here.
Mm.
But then there are some people who like make fun of these people and say, "Hey, why are you doing all this? Why are you wasting your time? There's only love after marriage." But
Oh, I
I
see.
feel like sometimes what could happen is that love could increase after marriage because the more you share moments together, the more
Mm-mm-mm.
you enjoy conversations with each other,
Right.
the more you get to be close to each other, spend quality time, travel with each other, and plan your future together, and all of these things,
Mm.
love will definitely develop and increase. The more
Mm.
you see how your partner behaves and acts at home, their
Mm.
kindness, their gentleness, their demeanor around the house, like all of these things, bit by bit, would increase
Mm.
the level of affection
Mm-hmm.
and feelings that you have for the person.
Mm-mm-mm.
So, do we allow it to develop after? Yes, for sure. Even if you've fallen in love with the person before, or you've not before, to me, marriage is a time where you allow love to develop naturally.
Yes, yes. And I think it's also a given in a way, you know what I mean? Like I guess it's a lot easier in a way if say there was some form of admiration already before the marriage.
Mm,
If there was already attraction, if there was already keenness of like dah syok lah basically.
mm-hmm,
Dah syok
mm-hmm,
lah, dah suka, that
mm-hmm,
kind of thing. But then perhaps for arranged marriages, perhaps it's not as easy. It may take a little bit more time because,
yeah.
like, baru kenal ni, you know what I mean?
Mm, mm,
But we are in fact halal already.
mm.
For example,
Yes.
kalau dah lepas kahwin kan.
Mm-hmm,
So maybe like the transition, the development, the growth of
mm-hmm,
emotion may differ.
mm-hmm.
But who knows? There may be instances where after marriage, tiba-tiba boleh saya tengok macam, oh my gosh, you're like woohoo, like lucky me, I hit the jackpot, like you're gorgeous, you're handsome, da 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 da, or who knows. Tapi when Yusri and I got married, I think I remember saying in a lot of our interviews, like the common questions that we got, like macam apa perasaan selepas berkahwin, like kind of thing, and I said that like well like I can't give anything conclusive, like my answers can't be conclusive because like we had just gotten married, like of course now it's all honeymoon and it's, yeah, everything feels like, very like, wow, flowery, fine and dandy, whimsical, magical, whatever. But the reality of it is that I said, I'm still getting to know him and vice versa. Kita masih cuba mengenali diri dan mengenali diri bersama mereka, bersama dia, dan vice versa. We're still getting to know each other. And it's us allowing for that process to happen. I guess to a certain degree, when at the back of your mind, when your subconscious mind understands that, like, this is halal,
correct,
this is halal, and therefore the restrictions that were before, like physical and etc. Like we discussed about this in the previous episode about the various types of zina and all that stuff, right? Like when that has been lifted off because you're now in the name of Islam, in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are now together as husband and wife. With that lifted off, it allows for that transition to be a lot smoother, in getting to know. And yeah, like you said, it's absolutely natural that it develops a lot easier.
I want to touch on something a bit taboo / controversial, but I don't know whether to do now or later. I'll just do it now lah. I'll just do it now. Because macam gini tau, there is also this thing which is a phenomenon today, and we have to talk about it as well.
All right.
Which is, some people say that before they were married, they were so madly in love. After they married, when it's halal, the love disappeared.
Oh.
Okay. And what happens is after that, they start looking elsewhere because to them, what's halal no longer interests them. So this is a problem of the heart.
Okay. The thrill, the thrill seekers.
Yes, the forbidden fruit punya apa ni thing. So they're like, okay, ni dah halal. I'm no longer intrigued by it. I'm not as interested as I was before. And to me, this is a problem of your heart. Because for those with, inshallah, with strong iman, of course our iman fluctuates, but those with strong iman and taqwa, I think love in marriage will always be more fascinating than any other thing you can find outside of marriage. Okay? But the problem is when we have been neglecting some important responsibilities as a Muslim. We've not been studying regularly. We've not been reading the Quran. We don't pray full time. Then we are easily more tempted sometimes. To look outside, to look at things that are not actual options for us. And I think that's where everything goes wrong. So we always need to ask ourselves, okay, so that's why, Lisa, as much as there can be love before marriage, but there should also be limitations. Because if, I'm sorry to say this, but if you've experienced everything before marriage, then what else is there to explore after marriage? Yeah. I don't know in Malaysia whether this is common, but in Singapore, more and more you see couples already, traveling together, just the two of them, like belum nikah and everything. And it's so common. It's so normalized to the point where, Lisa, kadang-kadang when I arrive at a majlis,
cohabitation as well is quite
yes,
common.
cohabitation.
Yeah.
Before I nikahkan orang, nikah majlis, I've seated, dah bawa my bag, dah buka, set nikah. And then the couple has not arrived yet because they want to make the grand entrance lah. And then, at a hotel, and there are banyak, tables, and all the guests are there, maybe 500 guests. And then there will be a video display, PowerPoint, And
Mm-mm.
these are all images and videos of the couple together before marriage. Okay, kalau ada dua tiga tu like normal lah, like take photos tengah makan ke apa. But then you literally see pictures of them traveling together, on holiday together, and things like that. And it makes me a bit uncomfortable,
Mm.
to be honest.
Because of the
It's one thing that you've done it. It's another thing to display to the whole world that you've done it. You know what I
mm-mm,
mean?
mm-mm,
And dekat majlis tu, obviously ada banyak orang-orang tua. Like
mm-mm,
there are seniors, there are your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents might also be there. And they're like, eh, bukan honeymoon lepas kahwin ke?
mm-mm, mm-mm,
And I'm sorry if this hits certain people the wrong way, but I think this is something we need to talk about, and it should not be normalized.
mm,
It shouldn't be something that's okay.
mm-mm.
From another hadith, I can share that the Prophet ﷺ said that the worst people are the ones who commit sin, and then Allah has covered it for them, and then they revealed it to the world.
Oh.
That's the worst sin, the Prophet ﷺ said. Maknanya Allah dah tutup aib kita, tapi kita show ke orang.
Mm-mm, mm-mm,
So, I mean, there's a lot more to talk about that, but I just wanted to say that I think we can try to combat this by educating the community a little bit more, our
mm-mm.
children a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not just about the Islamic principles, although that is the biggest thing. But I mentioned something else just now. Kalau you don't explore everything, then after marriage, what else is there? Probably
Mm,
there's not that much, or you might lose interest. There's always that risk, right?
mm.
How about
Especially yeah, and more often than not, it's always like if we don't try, we will never know, like it might, like if I don't like it, then I know like this guy is not the one for me. And this is the time before nikah, right?
Mhm,
Like so they give it a shot and
mhm,
see how they can handle each other,
mhm,
whether or not and all that. But the thing is, like there are reasons why there's a time and place for everything, with regards to how time is spent with
mhm,
one another in getting to know each other.
mhm,
If it is done in such a way where you had crossed a number of lines,
mhm,
um, like I think Ustaz Mizi Wahid says, then after nikah, because you have experience all of these things,
mhm.
it does then hence the lack of that thrill and that
Yeah.
lack of that understanding. I mean, like I remembered like how when I went for the first ever holiday ever, which is a honeymoon obviously with my husband,
Mhm.
and this was like like this
Where do
is
you
a make or
where do you
break.
where do you, where do you guys go? Kepo, where do you guys go?
It's fine, it's fine. We went to Zurich, sorry, Zurich
Zurich.
first.
Mm.
Sorry, we went to, mashallah, what was it? Basically we
You
kind
are
of
not allowed to forget, Normally men are allowed to forget. You are not allowed to forget.
I'm horrible.
The point is,
Europe,
it's
Europe, Europe.
memorable. Yeah, it's memorable. And did you
Yeah,
enjoy?
it
Yeah.
was Europe. We stayed in the I remember where we stayed. Giron Villas. What was the country? uh, where is Zurich?
Germany, lah.
Germany.
Switzerland. Sorry.
Switzerland, yes. So
Mm.
so we went to Switzerland. We stayed in this really, really gorgeous chalet,
Mm.
where I think I remembered like the both of us driving up the snowy mountain saying, oh my God, first time
Mm.
nampak snow banyak macam
Mm.
tu, jakun
Mm.
lah.
Mm.
But then the thing is, it was also when it comes to that first time when we had that holiday together, it was
Mm.
either make or break, yeah, because
Yes.
this is the very first time that I'm spending a holiday together with another person who's not my blood relative.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Who, I mean, I did not grow up with this guy. I did not, whatever. And here I am, who's very plan.
Mm.
And Yusri is the kind like who's like, hey,
Spontaneous.
spontaneous.
Mm.
I remember the discussion that we had before we went off for a honeymoon. And I was like, okay, so I've got my
Itinerary,
organizer
is it?
ready and itinerary. And then I was like, okay, what would you like to do? Da, 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 da. So I'm usually like the executor, and I allow for the planner to sort of like, and I'll help execute. If you know what I mean, like okay, if this is what you want, okay, I'll get the tickets. If this is what you want, okay, then I'll plan this out. That kind of thing, lah.
Mm.
So I don't decide. I let the king of the house to decide.
Sounds
Anomaro.
exactly like me, my wife though. Exactly. She's the planner. She does the itinerary. She does the research. She plans where we can go,
But
what are the options.
oh, okay. So she does not decide them, right? Like, as in, like
Well,
she
up to a
will tell it
certain,
to you.
yeah,
She'll tell it to you, and
up to a certain point, I think most of the time I do let her decide anyway.
oh,
So
yes, sir. Oh, give and take, give and take.
yeah, give and take, give and take. But
Yeah,
I'm the more, just decide on a whim kind of person. Just, oh, let's
right.
be spontaneous. Let's do this. Let's just go. Like just last weekend, I couldn't sleep, so I just booked a staycation, and she woke up and was like, "Huh, you booked something?" Like she needs to
Yeah,
plan. She needs to know what to pack for the kids. She needs to. Obviously, I leave all of that to
absolutely.
her.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing is, like, the
Yeah.
interesting thing that I experienced during that honeymoon
Mm-hmm.
was that I learned that Yusri was the kind of person who liked to sort of like, I want to drive around, he says. And
Mm.
I was like, oh, really? Because if it was me, I wouldn't know how to drive around in a country that I didn't grow up in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the roads. I don't know. I mean, like, oh, okay, if we want to drive around, which means that we have to rent a car that has GPS.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we get lost,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so I'm open to these suggestions, right? But then obviously it was something that I had to learn,
Mm.
and then bearing in mind that he is the driver and I'm the co-pilot, right?
Again, sounds very familiar.
And bearing and then like we also went to Rome, and
Mm.
if anybody has ever driven in Rome, they would understand how tricky that can be for us,
Mm.
because their road systems are quite different, and where you park,
Mm.
how you park, it has to be like it can only be the yellow line and not the blue line or something like that, and all that
Mm.
stuff, because otherwise then the saman and all that jazz and all that. So you can't enter the Vatican City side and all that
Mm.
stuff.
Mm.
You can't enter at all there line and all that jazz lah. It was
Mm.
very it was a very learning experience for me,
Mm.
but it was somewhat thrilling as well,
Yes.
because like I said, it's either make or break.
Yeah.
I think it's experiences like that kind of make it special when it comes to getting to know the person that you had just gotten married to.
Mm.
But if you had experienced this already all along before, um it, it I don't know, the I think maybe, am I being judgmental to.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying that the possibilities are greater
Mm,
if you're experiencing everything for the first time. Of course, there are hits and misses too, Lisa. I mean, I've had couples that I had to counsel because they had a very, very bad honeymoon.
oh
And
no.
what they mean by that is really this though. For example, the girl is ready
Okay,
to have a blast, to have a memorable honeymoon. The
right.
guy is not ready. So
Expectations super super high and
correct.
stuff.
So the guy is like, let's take it easy, let's take it slow.
Mm,
Even topics of intimacy, like the guy is not ready to be intimate yet, the girl is over prepared, so to speak.
mm.
And there's so much disappointments that happen at the end.
Oh dear.
And then they come back and they're like, this wasn't what I was expecting, but it's what
Oh,
happened. And then it takes a while for that to get fixed, even if they attempt to get it fixed. If they let it be,
yeah.
like some people, their attitude is, it's okay, it's gonna be okay after this. It was just our first honeymoon. We're gonna travel again, right?
Mm, mm, mm,
But
mm, mm.
to the other party, it might be like, that was everything I've ever dreamed of, everything I've ever thought of.
She
You
grew
know,
up, I suppose, with understanding that, like, hey, it's a honeymoon. The honeymoon is supposed to be the most beautiful time ever.
mm.
Maybe it was that as
And then
well.
she had a very bitter experience. How does she fix that in her mind? Because it's
Oh,
forever, there. So,
alas, yeah.
so I think those things may happen too. So I just wanted to mention that. But I guess it's really, we go back to all the other things we've conversed about, which is about getting to know your likes and dislikes, your preferences,
Mhm.
personality types and differences. To me,
Yeah.
all of that play a big part as well. Having difficult conversations, talking about what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. The
Yeah.
more you have these kind of quality conversations, the better it will be for you to maneuver and
Mm.
what's going to happen later on in marriage.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear about that. Like,
Oh, there
I
have been a
mean,
few. There have been a few.
um,
Mm. It's sad
yeah.
lah when I hear. And quite a number of them actually ended up in divorce, to be honest.
I see.
Mm.
Because of that honeymoon phase that they felt that was like the deal breaker lah.
Yeah, and then it was not
Mm.
fixed. So I mean, they allowed
Oh.
another 3 to 6 months to just pass by
Mm.
without making any attempt to either get help, reach out for help, or either talk it out. Just trash it out, just talk everything. What really bothered you? What really affected you? They didn't have
Oh.
that conversation, and so that's when it just you know died
Well,
off. Yeah.
the conversation I remember having when we came back was Yusri subtly said, I think we should weigh ourselves. And then I had
It's
a good
funny.
laugh because I was like, instead of him saying, I think we gained weight, or I think you might have gained weight, he was very, very tactful, very careful with his words by saying, I think we should
Uh,
weigh ourselves.
Funny.
I felt that he looked just the same.
Hmm.
Obviously, I didn't.
No, but every holiday we go, we always feel like we ate a bit too much. But I think that's part of what makes our holidays fun. We
No,
get to
Stars.
try,
No,
yeah.
I gained weight. Okay,
Mm.
I just I gained a lot of weight. I mean, I was really skinny
You know
when I got
orang-orang
married.
kita suka
Okay,
cakap, oh ni mesti dia sebab dia happy, dia bahagia sebab tu. Kan?
they
Jadi,
always say that. They
yeah.
always say that, and I'm like, okay, honestly, the bread was just amazing. Okay,
Mm.
all
Mm.
right. So you know how bread
You pack the
packs.
carbs. You pack the carbs.
Yes, you know, but you're very subtle.
Mm.
I think we should weigh ourselves, you know. And I was like, and then I
Yeah.
was like, here I am, like very innocently going on a weighing scale, and I was like, ooh, I gained weight, you know, a lot of weight. And then I was like, wait a minute, how come you asked, huh? You know. Anyways, yes.
Okay, so okay, we talked about love before, love after marriage. I
Right.
think maybe the last point we can talk about is like the duration. Does it matter? Like
Mm,
if I loved a person 3 months before we got married versus I loved a person 3 years ago,
mm,
is there any difference in terms of how it will impact the quality of our relationship post marriage?
mm, mm,
Would it be stronger? Would we adapt a lot quicker?
mm, mm,
You
mm,
know,
mm,
um, or is it better to not be too deep in love? When it's better to not know the person for too long?
mm.
Um,
But
you
there
know.
are instances, however, that
Mhm.
like I do know of some of my friends who have dated for a very, 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 very long time before tying the knot. And like sometimes us friends, like they seemed like they've been together forever. It's
Mm.
almost like they're already married anyway because of
Yeah.
the way they are. They know each
Mm.
other inside out, etc.,
Mm.
etc. And we're like, hey guys, come on, man, make it halal. Like why not? Da 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 da. And then they were like, by all means, we want. It's just that, like, then the guy side would say, it's the money. So I'm like, oh, what do you mean by it's the money? And then he was like, like, hey, when I marry this one, like I want to ensure that I take care of her. I'm taking care of somebody's daughter, man.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, is that why you're not married yet? Like, so some stay in the relationship maybe on the basis of that loyalty lah, and he's done searching,
Mm.
that
Mm.
dia dah tak nak date all around ke apa ke. Dia
Mm.
dah memang sayang that girl pun, tapi
Mm.
because of financial reasons, dia macam tak boleh settle down just yet lah, because to him it's like I want to ensure that I can provide lah, like the
Mm.
tanggungjawab, the nafkah, the ensuring that I give her a house and give her clothes to wear and make sure that like I can provide food for her and all that
Mhm.
jazz. So I pun macam, oh okay, ada juga yang reason dia macam tu.
Yeah.
Tapi like like back to our topic today, there are a lot, however, of instances where they stay in a relationship without getting married because they seem to have that like that need to know the person inside out first because they want to make sure this lasts forever.
They want to know the person 10 out of 10.
10 out of
Right.
10,
Yeah.
and I think
My argument with that is that even realistic? No, because there's something about, even if you've known a person for 10 years, there's something about just being married with the person that will show you another side of the person, reveal to you a certain personality that has not shown itself to you, revealed itself to you, even after
Even
10
though it's
years.
10 years, huh?
Yeah, because it's the
Mm,
responsibilities, it's the
mm,
stress, it's the balancing act that you have to
mm,
do,
mm,
it's
mm,
the family that you
mm,
married into as well.
mm, mm,
um it's the added bills that you have to pay.
mm,
It's so
mm,
many so many things that you have not yet considered as part of the whole experience of being married to a person. So I
mm,
don't think a 10 out of 10 is realistic. And even if you think it's a 10 out of 10, you'll be surprised that you're actually maybe only halfway there.
mm.
So
Yeah.
so I believe that even if it's a 7 out of 10, you're ready in that sense, inshallah. Now, I want to address very quickly about your friend's situation about money. A lot of
Okay.
people today actually say that. Okay. And the ones who are already in front of me, maknanya diorang dah nak kahwin,
Mm,
when I ask them about having kids, then they're going to talk about money. So they're either going to say, no
mm,
marriage yet because I don't have the money yet,
mm, mm,
or
mm,
enough money to sustain or to be responsible for someone's daughter, like you said.
mm, mm.
Or the ones that are already in front of me getting ready for marriage is like, kids maybe 5 years later,
Oh,
because we want to save up first. We want to buy a
right.
house, we want to stabilize our career and things like that.
Right. Okay.
So, and then you always hear like your elders saying to you, like, tak apa, kita kena yakin. You buat benda baik. You getting married, it's a halal thing, it's a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Allah will
Mm.
grant you rizq. You have
Ah.
children, that's what the Prophet ﷺ loves. You do it, inshallah, Allah will bless you with rizq.
Mm, mm,
So,
mm,
so there's
mm,
always this thing where you need to, like, okay, as much as you want to be very realistic, you want to be super practical, pragmatic, but there needs to be also an element of trust in Allah, because He
mm.
promised that He will provide for every living thing.
Right, right.
And
So,
again, yeah.
okay, okay, okay. So, I guess in that sense, like, actually, it is like lebih disarankan. Like, okay, for example, if say you've known this girl already,
Mhm.
if money is the only factor that is stopping you, for example, or rather, if you feel that it's stopping you, ke apa ke, on the basis of the principles of Islam,
Mhm.
where you nak elakkan maksiat, you
Mhm.
nak elakkan all these things where you may commit being in a emotional relationship with another
Yes.
person,
Yes.
you have to letakkan your iman, your faith in Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala, that what you want to do is in Islam disarankan, dalam sunnah disarankan, and inshallah from there how things will work out. The intention has to be clear that, like, actually I do want to marry this girl, and then
Mhm.
after that, like, of course to a certain degree there's got to be some sort of preparation. But
Mhm.
if say suddenly you like, okay, bukannya duit tu kosong,
Mhm.
duit tu ada, cuma macam you suddenly put this different benchmark of how much you have to have before you
Yes.
kahwin. Ah,
But
like,
you know what? Sometimes I ask them, why?
mm,
Why are you not married yet? They say, I'm not ready. Then I ask them, what do you mean? They say, oh, financially.
mm,
And then
mm,
I
mm.
follow up with another question. I ask them, so how much before you're ready? And then most of
Uh-uh.
them don't really have an answer. Lisa, dia cakap,
Okay, so that means they don't even
rasa
have.
macam tak cukup. Rasa macam tak cukup. But they don't
I
really have a number
see.
in their head. And to me, that's not,
Okay.
to me, they're not being fair to themselves. And especially if this is the man, I think they're not being fair to the lady. Because the
Mm.
lady is waiting. The
Yeah.
one normally I feel in this kind of setting, the one that is risking it a lot more is the lady. Because she
Mm-mm.
can wait and wait and wait and nothing could happen. Or she could wait another 3 years. And in
Mm.
her head, she thinks it's only a year. But the
Mm-mm.
guy is thinking, no, I need 3 more years to save up. And to me,
Mm.
that's not fair. If you don't communicate, if you don't put a number to it, if you don't say this is the year roughly we're gonna get married.
Mm.
So put a number to it. Okay.
Mm.
Then you know that okay, I'm ready.
Mm. Yep. Yep. Okay. Oh,
Mm.
I see. So more often than not, there's not even a clear benchmark pun. Macam
Mm.
dia tak ada pun, macam I see. They just feel that it's tak cukup.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly.
I see.
Okay,
Alright.
so Lisa, what do you think? Love before or love after?
In my humble
Putting you
opinion,
in the spot. Yeah.
it's okay. In my humble opinion, whatever it is that Allah has decreed for you,
Mhm.
whether or not you happen to meet this person,
Mm.
and you want to get to know the person, if it happens to be the scenario whereby it is not an arranged situation,
Mm.
if it's been decreed that it is before, I'm quite open in my answer. I can't say either or. um, if it's before, then usaha untuk mempercepatkan apa yang lebih halal.
Mm.
Okay, if it's arranged, for example, if it's arranged, hopefully, if you can have a say, um, like I don't want to be the person who says like macam tolong lawan kalau you tak setuju ke apa ke. Cuma cuba dengan cara yang baik dan berhemah,
Mm.
untuk nyatakan asalkan dia di jalan yang diredai Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala,
Mm.
syarat-syarat yang mengikut cara-cara Islam,
Mm.
kita buat cara yang proper. So it's not so much that you depend on all of these worldly factors.
Yeah.
Like macam, like adakah dia cukup kaya, adakah dia datang daripada keluarga yang nama baik, dan when you say nama baik, you mean nama baik yang masyhur dari segi kekayaan ataupun nama baik dari segi orang yang keimanan, that kind of thing. So like macam if you could have a say in saying that, then you say tapi sebagai anak menghormati ibu bapa, then like I think that conversation has to take place.
Yes.
So I'm very, very open, knowing now, like where it's really not so much macam make sure you know the person, how long you know the person. It's not about that. Dia sebenarnya berbalik-balik kepada Islam. Dia berbalik-balik kepada cara yang mana yang disarankan. Like yang cara yang disarankan dalam agama Islam. If ikut cara yang dicarankan cara Islam, then in that sense, insyaAllah, everything will go smooth sailing. So, which is why we really, really, really hope, to all the listeners, you've been listening to the previous episodes about, how wherever you may be, whoever you may be, whatever status it is, actually it boils down to having a clear and right intention. I think it boils down to that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. That's a beautiful way to sum it up. Okay, guys, I hope you've benefited from our little discussion. It was nothing more than really a discussion, right, Lisa? I mean, we're just looking at the different scenarios and the options that are out there and things that have actually happened. I hope it enlightens you a little bit. And for those of you, I mean, just to close it up, I did mention about, the dosa of, sharing and revealing. Kalau you dah terbuat, I mean, it's not the end of the world though. There's always a chance for you to repent and make tawbah and istighfar every day. We all need to do that. May Allah forgive us and may Allah grant us His mercy. Ameen.
Ameen.
All right. So thank you so much, everybody. Till the next episode. Take care. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum, everyone.